But all of these things require lots of energy, right, to get to Venus, to get there. And speaking of energy, there's apparently some new batteries that are going to be announced next week. And we have actually
flawless execution.
We have a first look here at Tesla's new battery, which was called Project Roadrunner, and this is not a product.
It's a fat boy.
Yeah, this is not made by Yeti or Hydro Flask, although it kind of appears to be. What we're looking at on the screen here are images that were leaked to Electrek of the new battery cell that Tesla made themselves. So right now, the cells are being made by Panasonic, and then those are being put into packs and things for cars. And so this is a new cell that they actually made. Some of the highlights of this, other than it looks like about the size of a soda can, maybe like one of those slim, like Pellegrino cans.
It kind of looks like Andre the Giant holding a beer can.
Yes, it does.
Right.
That does
that photo.
a lot.
Right. So if you scroll down, there's some kind of diagrams here from a patent that they also had used or applied for, which basically it's a tabless design, which I'm not sure exactly what that means, but the net of it is that there's more energy density that you can get out of these by making them a bit bigger and not having the tabs. Also, there's we don't know like the chemistry of this, which could make a huge difference. But with all of that said, this apparently is the new battery cell, which presumably we'll hear about in next Tuesday. And so with that, we could see a 4 to 5x improvement in energy density at the cell level, which could then reduce the cost, which then, of course, I don't know, the big question in my head is not even a technical one, it's a more strategic one. What do you do? Do you make electric cars cheaper, or do you make them more capable, or do you do both? Do you have let's say the Model S gets this, and now you can have 1,000 miles of range on a Model S, and then the Model 3 doesn't get 1,000 miles, but now it just drops by $10,000 because you need fewer cells to accomplish the same range, or maybe you add in a little
options.
Bit. Yeah. What do you guys think would be the right approach?
I think the both approach. I mean, why not? Why not have a $25,000 Model 3 that maybe only gets 250 miles or so,
or still gets 300 if they can?
Well, maybe, but I'm just saying, why not have that and a $50,000 one that can go 500 or 600 or something?
Right.
Assuming that the battery can even pull that. We don't know that yet, I guess. But.
Right. We're all just kind of guessing.
I kind of think at this point, one of the things that they'll have to do, in my opinion, is they have to make the S and the X absolutely world-class dominating now. They have to get it back up to the top. Right now, Ben still loves it more than anything else in the world, basically. But I just don't think it's really, especially now that the Lucid Air online, it's going to not be the king of the mountain. It'll be by multiple factors, quarter mile time. So, Elon loves stuff that goes fast. And then also by range standards, it's the Model S is behind.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's less expensive, but I think that's not Tesla's domain to be taken over by anybody in any way. So
yeah, they're we're gonna knock your teeth out approach. They're not this is a better deal approach.
Right.
No. No, that's not how we do it.
So I think what they'll first, because they're all about that, just like when we look at the company overall, they started with a flagship approach and went down from there. I think they'll do the same thing with these batteries. Make a flagship vehicle, the Plaid Model S, we'll probably see on Tuesday. Start with the Plaid Model S, knock everyone's socks off. This will be an Uber car, 800 mile range, or maybe not 800, but even if the Plaid Model S can do 500 mile range, but 0 to 60 now and 2 flat because it has big old wider tires. Yeah, I know it's at the limit already of tire grip, but you can have wider tires, you can have stickier compound, and a street legal, almost drag radial for a sticky road tire.
Well, it's like the Dodge Demon. You're looking at it okay, fine, I guess this is a production car, but not really.
And then a 9.3 quarter mile at 160 miles an hour, something stupid.
Man.
And just go absolutely crazy with it so that it dominates in absolutely every checklist thing,
Yep.
and can charge 350 kilowatts. And then I don't know. I'm starting to get a little too hyped about this because I have big expectations now that they're going to have to throw the gauntlet down. And that Elon keeps saying things like, someone said it's going to be insane, like what this is going. And he replied, it's going to be very insane. And he said last week something like, there's going to be many things to release on Battery Investor Day. Many things, not like we have something exciting for you. Many things.
Can we skip the Investor Day part of the whole thing? Like, who cares about that crap? Like, show me the car, show me the
Well, I'm guessing they're just turning it into a giant
product showcase.
Yeah.
It's like
it's event creep.
Yeah. Well, COVID.
Let's start with this little battery.
Yeah.
Well, like I've been saying this whole time, I feel like this is their only real opportunity to release an update and a refresh to the S and the X and do a big reveal of it.
Yeah.
Without it, and have it on the calendar for people without telling people that it's a big S and X update. Because the second you do that, the S and the X sales go,
They've kind of done that already, right? I mean, the S and the X sales, I think at the beginning of the year did that. Like, remember, I think you caught that, Tim, because we were looking at the production numbers or the delivery numbers. And it was like all of a sudden the S and X sales halved, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't be.
Is that the Osborne effect?
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? The Osborne effect?
Yeah. When you know something else.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just keep updating the product to be so good that by the time you're like old one's really ready out, it's already outdated and people are looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's more the Apple effect. But yeah, it's the idea that like you announce that some really, really amazing thing is coming in a year or so, and then everybody's like, well, I'm not going to buy the current model because what's the point? It'll be outdated soon.
You have to just do it. You just have to drop it. Like without, that's the whole, it's so funny too. I mean, it has become a marketing tactic for tech companies, right? Like by the time a new phone gets announced, you know everything about it. You've seen everything about it. And even now, what was it? One of the Google phones or something? They're like, all right, well, I guess since it's all leaked, here's all the details. And
really?
Like, but somehow Tesla can keep like a giant semi-truck hidden in a very public place where they make it. Like, I don't
Pretty impressive.
Like, it's nonsense. That's all. That's just part of their strategy.
I'm really amazed that the Cybertruck was
that's what I mean. Like, how could you possibly keep that secret? Like, it doesn't make sense.
And the Roadster, like, totally. Nobody saw the Roadster. There was I did not see one. No one knew it was coming that night. Nobody. How did they do that? And not just like a joke version of it that's like, here's our future, one that they made out of clay in the back or whatever. Like, this is like this was you rode in it, Ben. You rode in that car. Like, they produced one to that degree and kept it secret.
Yeah, they didn't like tow it to the top of a hill and let it roll downhill and call it.
Have we talked about that last week?
No. I'm up to it if you guys are. Yeah. Well, but anyway, so Battery
hang on to
Day.
that one.
Okay, let's finish. So what else are you guys excited about for Battery Day? I mean, I think we all just kind of talked about it. Like, is there anything that you're like, ooh, I want this? Because I've got one that we haven't talked about.
Well, real quick, I'll just to finish up the battery aspect of it. One of the big things, and this applies to rockets too, is by increasing the diameter of the battery cell, you actually, if you double the diameter or double the amount of material, you're actually 4 times the amount of volume of battery inside. Now, the problem that's been probabilistic with batteries is that the bigger you make a battery, all of a sudden you have a lot more heating stuff on the inside that no longer has access to coolant, because you can only cool the outside of the battery. You're not going to be running coolant through the inside of the battery, obviously. So there's a certain kind of a magic number where if you size it up too big, all of a sudden it just gets too hot, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, if they increased it this big, we're talking, if you guys don't know, like the 2170 or 30, whatever they are, those cells are darn close to they're a little bit bigger than like a AA.
They're like a third bigger than a AA.
Yeah, they're like
watching. I have these are 18650s here, and won't focus on them.
Oh, stacked on top of each other?
Yeah, this is this is from a little selfie stick that had batteries, and these are actual 18650s. So it's the same size as the Tesla ones that are currently in the S and X.
Yep.
2170s are slightly bigger than this, not
bigger
by a lot, but yeah, it's
and then
AA's essentially.
Then this new one has what are they saying? The volume is almost 10 times the volume.
Is that what it says?
Or 4 times? I don't remember, but it's
4 times.
But it's a substantial upgrade in total volume and diameter, and that's got to be. They had to overcome something really big. So I'm really curious, how did they make it so you could have a larger cell like that? Because that obviously means less material, so you don't have to have as much, casing. It means better volume density because you're now more battery compared to the casing ratio. All of these things upgrade. So that's the stuff that I'm excited to hear more about.
And I think the answer is in the event invite. It's the silicon nanowire anode, I believe, is if they were able to. Yeah, if they were able to make that bigger, they could use that silicon nanowire anode. I believe is what would allow them to make it keep it cooler. If I understand how this works, it's a bit above my pay grade. I read
something that said like the electrode, which might be that nanowire, can actually also function as the coolant somehow.
Yeah,
and I'm just like,
there's something there where, some of this stuff might be able. Biscuit tin, they're calling this. That's cute.
So would the coolant actually be flowing through the battery pack still, or is it just that they can conductively cool or something that anode, and that's also, I don't know. I don't know enough about batteries to know what exactly this means.
It wouldn't be the Maxwell dry battery electrode thing.
The dry electrode, I don't think so, because the event invite has something that looks like the silicon nanowire thing, and so I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot that we don't know, but I think that was something like 10x if they were able to pull that off, 10x the energy density, which would be like crazy what you could do with that if that's possible. It would make all other forms of batteries kind of like,
Let's real quick read Bamboo Hip Hop
has their pants.
Because don't forget Tesla, of course, acquired Maxwell batteries. Bamboo Hip Hop and Discord showed this. Maxwell's electrode process works by fibrillizing. Fibrillate basically, but fibrillizing, but that's hard to say, of PTFE Teflon mixed with particles of active electrode material, resulting in self-supporting film or of anode or cathode material. The film is then laminated to a current collector foil to make an anode or cathode, which is wound up with separator film to form a battery cell. Don't really know what that means, but yay, I guess.
All of that stuff.
Those things. More energy density. So what else? Any other of the rumors you guys are excited about?
The rumors for me are mostly in the battery, and then people saying that obviously the Plaid Model S will come out, which for those of you who don't remember, this kind of started to appear last year when the Porsche Taycan was taken to the Nürburgring and like smashing records, and Elon was getting pissed and like, fine, here's our Plaid Model S. And all of a sudden you see this ridiculous looking Model S with aerodynamic features galore and splitters and huge aerodynamic wings on the back and tires that are 40 million miles wide, and it just looked ridiculous, and So
kilometers, Tim. Come on, kilometers.
Sorry, I'm American.
All our European listeners have no idea what you're talking about.
6.8 million kilometers wide. Okay.
I said millions, so millions times 1.6. There you go. But but I just think seeing whatever, I hope that it's not the tacky look. I know it's not going to be the tacky Model S that they had on the track, because otherwise we've seen that. Yeah. They're not. That was their test mule. That was the interior of the car was this technology. And I really hope that means they'll roll out this new Model S, and I hope it's just absolutely stunning, updated, and just like a next level car. And I have big hopes for that, really.
Joe, what you got?
Oh, we haven't talked at all about just the cost per kilowatt hour that this might reduce it down to. I think that's sort of a under the radar kind of thing, because I mean, like, we all want to see the big flashy tech. But if they come out and say like this process brings the cost per kilowatt hour down to 90 or below 100, I mean that's the tipping point. I mean that's what everybody says is the tipping point.
You could have a really slim, watered down version of a Model 3 for 19,000 new, something like that. Maybe it doesn't even have autopilot hardware or anything like that, right? Like it just lacks a lot of the hardware features that cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, Ben, you released your full cost of ownership of the Model 3 video. and it was like what, 2,000 more than a Honda Accord.
Yeah. Well, and
when it all came down to it.
Yes, and I also didn't get the $7,500 tax credit, so it would have been cheaper than a Honda Accord. Yeah, over.
Wow.
But I mean, for somebody buying
years.
one now, it would that's exactly the situation. They wouldn't be getting the
They
tax
wouldn't
credit.
be getting the $7,500.
But it's also gotten cheaper. The Model 3 has gotten substantially
That's right.
cheaper since Ben bought it. Like,
okay, well then if this were to happen, it would be
yeah,
Yeah,
way
bananas.
less than a Honda Accord.
Right.
In terms of, I mean,
I still think that and I kind of want
that's
to do.
big.
that's huge.
I kind of want to do a video on this because I think it's really hard for people to think, and I think there's an argument against the true cost of ownership analysis, because what really matters, I think, for most people is how much does it cost me per month.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would be curious, because like the biggest chunk always in true cost of ownership is depreciation, but you don't like pay depreciation really, right? Like if you can get that car for $80 a month, like when you go to sell it is when that cost gets realized. So I think that there's an argument to be made about, like, okay, maybe it's cheaper net, you know, when you add it all up like that. But let's look at just like per month, how much am I actually spending? Because even if it's cheaper overall, but it costs you $700 a month, and a Camry costs you $90 a month, it's just not it's not even a conversation you can have. So I think like there's some, I don't know, I kind of want to do that analysis, like a true monthly cost comparison, not a true cost of ownership, just like how much can you really get this down? Because what is it right now, like $299 a month for the Model 3 if you lease it?
Kind of forget.
Yeah. But I mean, that's where I think it'll be really curious, because I think, anyways, yeah. So you're right, but yeah, overall, it's a great value. Like you can't really get.
Sorry, I didn't
No,
mean
go
to
ahead.
talk over you. And I wonder if there are like potential financing options that can account for that in some way to reduce the monthly amount.
Well, yeah,
because I mean, I think you're absolutely right. It is sort of a position of privilege to not have to worry about the monthly cost of it. Like most people, that is very much the front and center question.
But oh yeah, there you go. See, so $313 a month.
$371.
Oh, $371 a month. See, so that's not cheap, man.
Right.
I mean, for a car, because like go to BMW and you look at like a BMW 3 Series. I mean, it's probably cheaper than this, isn't it?
I don't know. I gotta go to like BMW.
You gotta
USA
like
or
Google for
something.
BMW. Yeah, but that's kind of the point. So, right, if you have the money, and you know, $700 a month for a car is not a lot, or not that it's not a lot, but like you can afford it and it's not gonna bankrupt you, then yeah, I mean, like so for example, when we refinanced my house, our loan was like 300 something thousand originally. And when we refinanced it, we got a 15-year loan, so that way we could get a much lower interest rate. But that meant that our monthly payment was essentially double what a normal payment would be for this house. And thankfully, we could afford that, right? But that's one of those things where, like, if you can afford a higher monthly payment, you can get a lower interest rate, which means that you can actually save money overall. But not everyone has that luxury of being able to say, oh, yeah, well, I don't care if it's $700 a month versus $300 a month. For a lot of people, that difference is massive.
Well,
So-
hold on. This is the cheapest BMW I could find on their site for a sedan. And actually, they had an SUV, like an X1. But there's a 228, which I didn't realize they were making a 2 Series. I kind of like that little size. More of a compact than
$419 a month. Yeah.
And yeah, lease is $419 a month.
There you go. Okay, but if you go to find a Honda Accord or a Toyota Camry,
Yeah, I was gonna say BMW.
you're talking
you know,
like
that's
$100
definitely
a month,
premium.
$150 a month, right? That's where the
sometimes-
Nissan Leafs. Actually, I know Kim from like Tesla. Before they had a Tesla, their car they had a Nissan Leaf, and they live in Georgia. And in Georgia, there was like a state rebate on top of the federal thing, and they would actually take that off of the cost up front. And so I forget exactly what it turned out to be, but they said that they were leasing a Nissan Leaf for like $40 a month or something
Right.
like that. It was like practically free. You
Yeah,
know?
like they're almost paying you to drive it by the time you factor in gas savings.
Yeah,
Well,
it was ridiculous.
So here's a Toyota Camry though. Even like the base model, the SE
229.
is $229.
Yeah.
An XLE, which would be comparable
Yeah,
tech,
yeah.
would be
So I think that's a good video to do, right? Is like look definitely. At not just overall cost of ownership, but like let's look at like the actual like monthly cost and see, and then if you take 289 or whatever, and then you drop in cost of gas versus electricity, for sure you're going to be paying more.
Well, that's something that I'm actually have a little bone to pick, because my parents are looking at Teslas, and they would consider road tripping with like a Model Y. And compared to so what my parents do a lot of times, they'll put a tandem bicycle. My parents are huge cyclists. They'll put a tandem bicycle in a van, a Honda Odyssey, like a newer Honda Odyssey. They can go right down the middle. They don't have to like disassemble it or anything.
Yeah.
Then they drive somewhere, and they get like, that van will get like 28 or 29 miles to the gallon or something, like really, really, which is pretty decent for a full-size vehicle
for
like
a van,
that.
Yeah.
And then, he was comparing like, well, if we go down to, say, Florida, it costs us about $200 or something. And he was looking at supercharging costs, and it was still like $100 for supercharging.
Yeah.
Or not, it wasn't half as much even. Like, it was more expensive. It was still like 60% the cost of driving their minivan. And I was a little disappointed. I thought, well, right now gas prices are like record low, I guess. So that could be some of it. Like, gas prices they're sweating right now. So they're just selling it cheaper than they can make it.
Well, it went negative for a while. Remember?
Yeah. So that could be part of it. When he was calculating at like $2 or $2.25 or something, like historical lows. But I still would hope that no matter what, that charging on a supercharger would be at least half as much,
Yeah, it does vary. It definitely varies. Yeah. And then, this is the irony of that conversation a lot of times, is like, if you look at percentage wise, like 40% or whatever is still a lot. That's a huge percentage savings. But in the end, you're talking about like $100. And you're like, well, $100 or hours at superchargers,
right?
I'll give you the extra. Like $100 isn't a lot of money. You know what I mean? If it were like thousands, you're like, okay, well, maybe it's worth the inconvenience. I'm a huge, obviously, EV advocate and fan, and I think but it's not practical in all cases, I would say, yet. Like, it's not truly always a better option in every case. Like, there are cases where it definitely does. It's not. Like my buddy Dan from What's Inside, he sold his. What did he have? He had 2 Model X's and he has 2 Roadsters, but he sold one of his Model X's because he drives from southern Utah to Salt Lake a lot, and it was just stupid. In his Model X, it would take him like 3 hours extra or something. Mm-hmm. And so he bought a Honda Accord and a hybrid, and he's just like, whatever, it was $14,000. I can get there. I can save hours. And for me, that's way more worth it. But again, I was talking to him the other day about battery, and he's like, yeah, if they have a 500 mile range Model S with V3 charging, I've got my card. I'm ready to buy. Like, I'm ready as soon as they can really, for his needs, because he does these kind of somewhat long road trips on a regular basis. Yeah. It's a deal killer still for some people. And I agree.
That's how I feel about like rural Texas. Same thing. Mm-hmm. There's just not a lot of chargers around, so you got to have that kind of range. So there's always that argument about like, should you go up to the 500, 600 mile range? Does it matter? Keep it cheaper. I think it does matter.
Yeah.
To
at least having that option, like you were saying earlier,
to have that
Joe,
option,
having that option.
Well, and remember, electric cars included, are like, depending on how you drive, depending on the conditions, like 70 to 80% efficient overall, I would say. Sometimes you can get closer to 100% efficient, but that's not always the case. That's more rare than, let's say, 70 to 80. So even if you have 500 miles range, you're only getting 70 to 80% of that. So you're not really going to be driving 500 miles exactly, unless kind of the stars aligned perfectly for you. Yeah. So, I think it varies, right?
I, for one, would love, if I could have a 500 mile range, I will buy it, because of when I do those 2 days of driving straight, just being able to that would make it comparable or beat potentially even a gas car for me, because I could almost get to my destination and then plug in and charge overnight and wake up with 100% battery and do it all over again, and that would be arguably just better than a gas car where I'd have to stop twice a day to fill up on gas. But
that's why I'm excited about 400 miles range in my Rivian R1T, which I cannot wait.
Yeah,
super excited about that. So,
do you have a delivery date on that?
No,
roughly?
but June is what they are saying.
Oh, okay.
And I luckily because of my job, I have a good relationship with them, and I'm like, can you just make all the ones with the fit and finish issues first? Like, don't feel you need to rush mine, please. Like, let me borrow one to film with, and then after that, I'll give that back, and then just take another 6 months. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm really tired of having cars with fit and finish issues at this point. I'm really over it. All right, last thing about Battery Day that I'm excited about, none of us talked about, Powerwall V3, potentially. So if they can have these new battery cells that are, I don't know, 4, 5, 10 times more energy dense, in theory, in one Powerwall, you could, really substantially increase the amount of energy there. And if you can keep the cost relatively the same, hallelujah. I still think the energy side of Tesla is probably will become the bigger revenue generating side of the company.
Yes.
The cars are great, and the cars are flashy, and everyone loves cars, and we all understand what cars are. It's much harder, I think, to sell like a white box that you attach to your house that you don't like get in and feel and experience on a day-to-day basis, but I think has a much bigger potential for the company and for renewable energy and all those kind of things. So that's kind of what I'm really fingers crossed, because we just bought a new house and I'm gonna put Powerwalls there, but I'm like, well, let's see what happens. Maybe we get a Powerwall V3 that's one Powerwall is the same as having 5 Powerwalls or something like that. So
well, that's another thing, is if they develop this process that brings the cost down to below 100 or whatever, keep in mind they also have 3 gigafactories on the way. Where they could pop this into, and like the volume, just the sheer volume of batteries in the world is going to absolutely explode over the next few years.
Hopefully not.
Or not.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to grow.
Yeah. So my one Debbie Downer about this is, if they do come out with this new battery and it's just substantially better in every way, what does that do to the value of the cars that we have right now?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned about that, because that's kind of one of the things about buying a Tesla that you always say is like, oh, you can over-the-air update and it gets better over time and it keeps its value and whatnot. Well, if something like this happens, I mean, unless you can get your battery pack replaced, which I don't know, maybe you can, but
not worth it.
Probably not.
I mean, Tim's had it, but yeah.
Tim's shaking his head, so I'm saying no.
Well, that was kind of the point of me putting out that video, with really just laying out every detailed cost. And it's funny, I love the comments are like, oh, well, you should have included this because that would have been the typical experience. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is to show my actual numbers, like the real data here, not like in theory.
Why didn't you fudge it, man?
Yeah, right. Like anyone can make up stuff and say this is what it should be, but here's what it really was. But that was one of the things is, when I bought the car, it was $55,000.
Yeah.
And Tesla since then had continually dropped the price on even a comparable model. It's not like they made a cheaper model that was cheaper. Like, that's obvious. When you have the iPhone whatever and then you have the iPhone SE, like, yeah, of course. Well, that's the cheaper one. You understand that those are different things. Here, literally the same one, in fact, a better one is cheaper now and just, has had several price drops. So like, in terms of depreciation of owning a Tesla, like Tesla themselves definitely make it worse, just for like they kind of,
it's
they
in the
make
technology realm less than it is the car realm, where technology, phones and computers like outdate themselves immediately, basically.
Yeah.
In a year or two, and cars generally hadn't before, and now they're riding that same curve. One of the things to remember here, though, is that's why I think it's important that I think this will mostly be focused on SX, and future vehicles, Roadster, Semi, Cybertruck. And I think the 3 and the Y, they're still going to be touting as like, these are still great cars, and I don't think they're going to change much on them because they don't need to, and therefore they might, I don't know. I think the first step of this process of this new batteries, until they can really mass manufacture batteries at a scale to fulfill their whole lineup and revolutionize their whole entire brand. I think at first it's just to make the new flagship model
100%. That's
better.
That should be the strategy, right?
And then tap away down there. Then make a cheaper Model S and a Model X. Then make a cheaper model, and then make a better / cheaper Model 3 and Y.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this clip from our show. If that's just not enough for you and you want to watch the full episode, you can go to olfpod.com/YT.
And if you want more from us, you can consider becoming a Patreon member. You'll get early access to episodes. You can join our awesome community. You can actually watch us record live and get your name in the credits by going to olfpod.com/Patreon.
So thanks everyone for watching. Check back every Friday for new clips here and new episodes on the main channel.
Thanks, everybody.